and welcome to this episode of DB2, heading into week 15 of the NFL season. It's a fantasy playoff season for most of us. David Brem here with Daniel Butler as always. Butler, how did week 14 treat you?
Honestly, my team did really well. I started off with Dalvin Cook on Thursday night, so everything went well. Got the win. Didn't really matter. Most of us had clinched. There was only one spot available. Really just seating, and unfortunately, could have maybe got a bye. But some guy in the league, as this happens with they didn't put people in their lineup. So the guy who I needed to lose was like before even the players took the field. It's like 90% favor because they were,
Yeah,
they left out a
yeah.
bunch of them. That drives me nuts. And I don't know if we really want to talk about this. Maybe sometime during or whenever, maybe a separate episode. But I really do think that leagues do so much better if there's some incentive to set a lineup, whether it's like every week the top scorer gets a little bit of the prize pool, or maybe like the whole year at least there's something. And then even when playoffs start, maybe the most points scored start, in the playoff season from week 14 on or something also gets a little piece of the prize pool. So everybody is playing for something, because I think it just makes better, because obviously everybody sets a lineup early on. So if you face somebody who's sets lineups, and then towards the end you actually face somebody who's not even in the playoffs, you get like easy. It's like luck of the draw.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
at the end of the day, if you put up you know fantastic performances, you'll probably win most weeks. But there are people that don't even make the playoffs with the most points scored. So, which is another discussion. What do you do with that? So I think we've talked about that. Should they automatically get into the playoffs if you score that many points? So
Yeah, I think you know where I stand on that one. I think the last playoff spot should be the remaining team, whoever has the most overall. I think during the offseason for sure, we should do at least one episode on just like things we would do, like running a league, things that would make a big difference in keeping people engaged. So
yeah, because honestly, like numbers, obviously on YouTube, wherever you make videos, obviously are going to go down as the year goes on. If you do podcasts and stuff, I know numbers go, they fall because people
oh yeah,
don't care as much.
everybody is
But
pumped at the beginning of
if
the season.
everybody has this sort of, this sort of desire to always do well in your fantasy league. I personally think if you don't set a lineup when it matters, and I think you should always set a lineup. My opinion, whether you're eliminated or not. I know if you're not playing for anything, you may not feel like getting on, but I feel like get on for a minute. Put the people in.
Yeah.
Put your best lineup in, and pick up a player if you need to. Put a lineup out there, even if you don't think it matters, because it at least matters to other people at least. But
Yeah, I know I told you a story before we got on. I found out Higby in one of my other leagues, super out of it, had a really bad season. Higby went down. Honestly, it didn't matter for me, so I could have just not cared. But I went on, I dropped Higby, picked up his backup. I got a text from the guy I was playing who apparently was needed to beat me to get in the playoffs. Not at just and you know what? It's one of those things like I would like to help that guy out, but you feel that obligation to put your best foot forward, uh, regardless.
and
So
and Kendall Blanton, I'm sure there are people that leagues were affected because good old Kendall Blanton, 2 for 29, his 4.9 points might have swayed some people in
oh,
the
I'm
playoffs
sure
and
there's a
stuff.
couple
So
games, and I'm sure
with
there's people very angry about it.
with Higby going out. So props to you if you did put a lineup, even if you were eliminated. Hopefully you're not. Hopefully you're thriving
Yeah.
and enjoying the playoffs here. And we're going to talk about that. But before we talk about the games here, of course, I have to go through the best performances from the week, top 10 for
It's just gonna
every
sound like my
position.
fantasy team this week.
Josh Allen, easily quarterback one with 35 points, making that comeback against Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And speaking of Tampa Bay, quarterback two, Tom Brady. So a high scoring game there. 5 points beyond Josh Allen, though. Josh Allen was easily one. Brady still had 30 points, though, two high performers. And Aaron Rodgers right behind him with almost 30 as well. And then a little bit of a jump to Taysom Hill, a couple rushing touchdowns. That will do it for you. At four, Justin Herbert. Ben Roethlisberger, another top 10 performance. Let's go, Ben.
Trying
Matthew
to go out with a
Stafford,
bang.
seven. Joe Burrow, Russell Wilson, nine. Nice to see him in the top 10. And then Patrick Mahomes continues to disappoint, I think, but 10 is not really what you're looking for when you pay that for him. But we talked about that a lot. Jimmy Garoppolo just missing out in top 10, and then Justin Fields was actually number 12. Anything there you want to say? about that?
No, like you said, some names that definitely earlier in the season we didn't see. Ben's done it 2 weeks in a row, which is interesting because for a long time he looked like he was down there with the Goffs of the world. But
Besides Ben Roethlisberger in this might and may just even overall, this might be the best top 10. Like if you projected what the top 10 was going to be, like based on the rankings all season. Josh Allen, like if you look at these names, Allen, Brady, Rogers, Taysom Hill, which you wouldn't expect, but now you do. I mean, he was ranked
yeah,
like number
when,
5 or
once he
6. Yeah.
once he got the job, yeah,
Justin Herbert, Ben Roethlisberger, Matthew Stafford, Joe Burrow, a little bit higher maybe than you expect, Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes. So pretty much all the big names are in the top 10. So if you needed to win this week, if you had one of those big names, you're probably pretty happy. I think Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray,
I was gonna
only
say
a
I think the
couple.
Kyler Murray owners would argue those
Yeah,
are all the
there's
big
a
names.
couple. But Lamar obviously with the injury. All right,
Yeah,
running backs, Dalvin Cook, massive day on Thursday night.
why you pay
Uh,
attention up to the last minute for injuries.
Yeah, so he went. I saw a lot of people say, he's swinged up. Madison, you may like. I saw people trying to say you played Madison when Cook is out there. He is the running back.
Yeah,
It's the most obvious play ever. It doesn't. You don't try to. If he is dressed, if he is gonna play, you play Dalvin Cook. Even
yeah.
if he may give you nothing, you have
If
to
you
play
wanted
him.
to start, if you wanted to start Madison, also like if you only had Madison, or you wanted to start maybe both just to hedge your bets, I could have understood that. But benching Cook would have been
Yeah.
crazy.
James Conner at 2 continues with Edmonds. We thought he was going to be back in this game. He was not, but Connor had a massive day.
Yeah,
And
looked
then a
great.
big jump down, 7 points almost below Rashad Penny of Seattle. Of course, of course.
Yeah, naturally.
Uh, Najee Harris at 4, Alvin Kamara at 5, Leonard Fournette at 6, Melvin Gordon at 7, Aaron Jones at 8. Couple touchdowns would do it for you. I'm still not an Aaron Jones believer. Number 9, Javonte Williams. So 2 Broncos running backs in the top 9, and then Clyde
Wow.
Edwards-Helaire at 10. And guess what? Number 11, nice to see. I know that's about what you drafted him, so you're like, you would hope. Saquon Barkley, number 11. I don't remember the last time he was even that close to top 10. So,
Yeah, he hasn't been.
uh,
It's a long overdue consolation prize to anybody who drafted Barkley.
yeah, like, wow, he finally is close to where you drafted him.
Since you're eliminated from the playoffs, now he's gonna give it to you.
Wide receivers. If you told me this top 10 going into the year, there is some weird names. All right. I mean, they're not that they're that bizarre like what we know now, but number 1, Devontae
Preseason,
Adams.
yeah.
Okay, so Devontae, you'd be like, okay, this is a normal week. Devontae Adams or it's Cooper Cup, but Devontae Adams. Number 2, Cooper Cup. Obviously going
Okay.
in, we
First
didn't
of all, don't
know.
pretend like you thought
Yeah.
preseason Cooper
Well, I
Cup
didn't.
was gonna be running
I
back.
had Robert Woods on my team, not Cooper Cup, and
Yeah,
Robert
me
Woods was
too.
drafted a few spots above him. He was actually pretty solid. He was, but obviously getting injured. But obviously not Cooper Cup as well. Number 3, Hunter Renfro, who just he's like number 3 in points per game in like the last like 5 or 6. He's just
Yeah,
been
he's been on a
insane.
tear.
Tyler Lockett at 4. His nice game for him. Jamar Chase at 5. Of course, you believe in Jamar Chase.
Look,
Robbie
I'm
Anderson at 6.
You
What do
got
you
to
think?
believe in yourself. You keep thinking he's good, and then but you won't actually go on a limb for him. He's just mad at you.
Mike Evans at 7. Alan Lazard at 8. Justin Jefferson at 9, Chris Godwin at 9. So maybe it's not that. I just saw like Hunter Renfro,
Hunter
Cooper Cup we
Renfro.
knew, Robbie Anderson. Some of these guys, like Robbie Anderson, has been a big disappointment, but
Yeah,
he hasn't been even close to the top 10. It's like, it would be like Allen Robinson being number 6. That's basically, Allen Robinson is even worse probably than Robbie Anderson, but at this point. But Hunter
yeah.
Renfro, that's the one. I mean, if you have him on your team, what a time! Like, I mean, he's just
He's
been,
getting hot at the right time.
yeah. And then tight ends. Your favorite tight end? Would you say it's your favorite tight end in the NFL? Because it seems like you do love
I think
yourself
so.
some George
Yeah,
Kittle, who just had a massive day. 13 catches for 151 yards and a touchdown. Those are wide receiver numbers, and that's like insane wide receiver numbers.
and he had one crazy beautiful catch too.
Um,
That like one handed that looked like he had no
Yeah.
chance.
Mark Andrews at 2, and then there's a huge jump from those two. So those guys just went off. Dawson Knox at 3, and then there's a decent jump from 3 to Albert. Oh, I'm not even going to try to say his name, from Denver, the second tight end there.
Yeah,
Austin Hooper at 5, which that's not really a surprise because he was the only tight end basically. But maybe not top 5 you'd expect. Brevin Jordan of Houston, of the Houston Texans. What the heck? This is every week though. I'm not even gonna act. This is
yeah.
week tight end. Pat Fryermuth and Rob Gronkowski at 7, Kyle Pitts at 9, and Gerald Everett at 10. So the big thing here is, and before, because we're going to go probably pretty quickly through the games, I just want to say, I did say a few weeks ago, I didn't buy that Travis Kelce was like a bust, but with how he's the lack of production in the last few weeks when you needed him most, and the fact that
It hurts.
he was barely tight end 1 for much of the year, and now he's down to tight end 4 on a points per game basis, I think you can say now. I think he was at least he's in that. Like if you said he was I think you would say he's a bust. You spend a first round pick on somebody. When you miss out on a running back, a top running back, you miss on a top wide receiver. I mean, he's not the biggest bust, but I would say like DeAndre Hopkins is probably a bigger bust. But and I'm sure there's others. I'm just thinking because
Yeah.
I had Hopkins, so I'm kind of sour on that one. But
To me, it's just Allen Robinson. He just
yeah, Allen Robinson a little bit drafted a little bit lower, but like for those
still,
top
yeah,
first or second round
yeah.
picks, I think
I'd say,
Kelce because it wasn't even injury. Like I mean, it
yeah,
was just like I mean, I'm not saying it's his fault because he's probably the best tight end in all of football, but whatever reason, this offense is just not it's not been
yeah.
clicking.
Yeah, I have a tough time going all the way there. It's disappointing for sure. And like you would much rather if he was going to have this stretch, have it early in the season. Like this is definitely not when you want to have it. But here's the thing: we could be back here next week, and he could have been he could be a clear cut number one. Like he's still got that. He's still got Mahomes, who hasn't been performing up to what we expect, but it's in there somewhere. So it's disappointing for sure. It's tough for. Yes, he was drafted extraordinarily high, which doesn't help, and you see some of the guys you passed on, but you could have missed on those first round picks anyways. There's quite a few first round picks that were misses. So, yes, disappointing. I think bust is mildly aggressive.
Yeah, so I don't know. Something in maybe next year, maybe that top tight end, he'll be the top tight end. I'm sure
Yeah,
will
he'll be the
maybe
first one,
drop
but
back a little bit.
I think
He was clearly the tight end 1 coming in. Like you're going to have a huge advantage every week, and then it came out. It just wasn't the case. It actually was. He was. I wouldn't say he was like every other tight end, but there was 3 or 4 guys that were just as good as him. So,
yeah,
um,
I think it could move. I don't know that. Yeah, like you said, he'll still probably be the number one tight end drafted if I had to guess, but I think it could move down every tight end's value honestly as much as like Kelce could fall to like an early third rounder. Like it could just move every tight end's value down.
Yeah, I think he'll probably be second round, but I think you will see obviously, I mean, we'll see. I mean, a lot of things will happen
It's
until
early, but
draft time.
I can't see myself after this season paying whatever it's going to be because like you said, I'm a big Kittle guy. I could probably get Kittle maybe a full round or so after him. Like to me
Yeah,
next
I mean,
year
it's all about
Kelsey probably
roster
won't make
construction.
sense.
Obviously, when you get closer, we'll see kind of where people are being drafted, and you may like your lineup a little bit more if you take Kelce or don't take Kelce and wait. It's all about trying to figure out where you can get value at. If you feel like you can get a tight end value later, like a Kittle you think is a better value, or assuming you think you can get him, or a Pitts, or a
Yeah.
Hawkinson, or maybe not even not in that caliber, but Waller
I
or
still think
whatever.
Andrews. I think
Andrews.
Andrews will be undervalued. He seems to always be a little bit undervalued. So
But anyways, I thought what a great transition because the first game we're going to talk about is of course the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Los Angeles Chargers. Just to go here on Thursday Night Football, we got Thursday Night Football and Saturday Football. So just make sure Thursday, make sure to set your lineups. Obviously, watch for all the COVID stuff because we have a lot of that coming out. So just make sure you guys are active. Don't play, obviously don't play people that aren't active. But also Saturday, we have the Raiders, Browns, which we'll talk about soon, and the Patriots and the Colts. So
yep.
just make sure you have those games. No buys this week because we're in week 15, so they're all done. But yeah, so Chiefs, Chargers, almost a coin flip. Games in Los Angeles. Yeah, what do you have to say about the Chiefs? Obviously, we kind of hammered a lot of it. It's been a
Yeah, we talked a lot
disappointment.
about it. Thing is, we're to the point in the season. A lot of these games I think we're going to fly through because we know on this team, like Mahomes has been disappointing. You're still starting him. Uh, Tyreek Hill, not a great game the last couple. You're still starting him. He's one of the most talented receivers in the league. Kelce, disappointing. He's probably the most talented tight. You're still starting these guys, and you're just hoping for better performances. But at this point, you're not going to go out. You're not going to bench these guys. You're not going to do anything like that. So Edwards Hilaire, I think, is still unless you're extraordinarily stacked at running back, is almost a must
Which
start.
you
So
definitely in playoff time, there's a good chance you are stacked at running
yeah,
back.
you could. I mean, I benched Melvin Gordon last week, and he was in our top 10 rundown, and I made the right choice. Like some people are just going to have those guys locked up for. So Edwards-Helaire is probably the only person on this team who is startable and even a good start, but could be benched. Everybody else you're running with. You're just hoping they perform better.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first week I think, maybe all season that Travis Kelce is probably not going to be the number one tight end. I think Kittle will be now,
Of
but
course, Kiddo's the
that
man.
which is I guess is again it doesn't matter. Maybe if you're playing daily or something, you that might matter a little bit. But that's the one thing that's of course, why are you doing this to me now, Kelsey? If you would have
Yeah.
just put up like 100 points this past week, I would have made the playoffs in one of my leagues. But yeah, Clyde Edwards-Helaire I think is outside the top 15 running back, so I do think there's a good chance
There's an
if you're in the
opportunity. Yeah.
playoffs. I mean, unless you could be stacked, you could have Cooper Cup on your team, and maybe a few other of these amazing values for sure that you don't necessarily have to have two incredible running backs on your team, but I think there's a good chance you do. So, with two or three, so I think he probably is not going to be started. Right, a lot of playoff teams, and then besides Hill, there's really no one.
No, I'm not touching anything else on there.
There even in deep leagues, I don't really think there's.
I don't know who it would be. That's the thing is like at least in deep league sometimes there's a guy who you're like, all right, he's not gonna go lights out, but you could see an opportunity with them. It could be any of those guys. It could be any of the other guys that have a good game. So
Daryl Williams is a fine play as well. Again, this is in a deep league. If you're in like a
deep,
16,
yeah,
you might be playing Daryl Williams.
yeah. I can't see any standard league playoff teams using
Yeah,
him.
for sure.
Uh, Other side of the ball, we talked about the Chargers. This is kind of the same situation. I mean, except for you're not worried about these guys. Herbert, Eckler, obvious. Allen, as long as the COVID stuff clears up, obvious. Cook is in that group. I'm guessing if you made the playoffs, you probably have somebody else you're riding with. And Mike Williams, he's got huge upside. And if some of this COVID stuff shakes out where some guys are out, I could see teams needing to plug him in. But I don't think he's going to be a first choice on most playoff teams.
Yeah, I mean he's probably just outside the top 15 receivers. Keenan Allen is a must start, I think, if he goes.
Oh yeah,
Again, I mean, there's obviously scenarios where you could have Cooper Cup and Devonte Adams and Debo Samuel or whatever. You could definitely have three better receivers, but that would be congratulations. You
yeah.
probably it's gonna be really hard for you not to win. But you never know with any given week. But yeah, congratulations with that amazing roster. Yeah, those. I mean, there's nothing else. Austin Eckler is one of the top running backs, top two or three guys. Justin Herbert is a top 10 guy. Again, if you've rocked him all year. And the only real decision is whether Mike Williams. And if you feel like you have a worse team than your opponent and you're looking for a high, Mike Williams always has that, especially if Keenan Allen misses. Mike Williams didn't have a huge day, 6 for 61. Some other guys got the touchdowns and big plays, but he's got to be one of the biggest boom receivers just because that's the type of receiver he is. And if Allen's gone, that would even help it probably a little bit more.
Yeah. Next up, Saturday game, Raiders Browns. With the Raiders, Jacobs, he's in that situation where I think he will be started on some playoff teams, but I think a lot of playoff teams are going to have better options. So if you have him, I mean, your team. If you need to start him, you need to start him. I don't think he's a terrible start. He's probably if I had to guess, in that 15 to 20
Yeah,
group.
I think around top
So
15.
yeah, so he could be starting, but you never know. Renfro, if you want to bank on this continuing, I mean, he's hot at the right moment. You're not scared of this matchup. If you don't have a stud ready to go, and I mean, recent evidence points to that he could be a good start, but I would say Renfro is still in that group. I kind of hope I don't have to play him. I don't have to personally, but I could be wrong, completely wrong on that because he's proven me wrong pretty much since the bye, since week 9. Other than 1 week, he's been very, very good.
Yeah, I mean he's top 12 in the past 5 weeks, 5 of the last 6. I mean, so yeah, he's been incredible. I do face him in my playoffs, so a big money league. Can you not go off? But I will say, I see him ranked here like at 17 or somewhere. There is no way. I think there's with the way he's going off. I just don't think I could have him on my bench. I feel
It's a gamble.
like they have DeAndre Hopkins over. There's no way I'd play him over. That seems silly. But like even like Tyler Lockett or even like maybe even up to like CD Lamb and a few others, Keenan Allen maybe even I don't know. But like I just don't think I could sit him on my bench. He's just been insane. He's been so good. Obviously, this game on 14 target. This is a Cooper Cup type game. 13 for 117 and a touchdown. Um, yeah, that's. I think Cooper Cup had a kind of. I'm curious when we get to that game. I feel like he had a game like that. So yeah, Hunter Renfrow. I personally think is probably a top 12-ish wide receiver, at least top 15. Josh Jacobs top 15 running back, and I don't think there's anything else. Obviously with tight end, Waller. Don't know if he's back, then he's
Yeah, if he's back, you're rocking with him, but I haven't seen anything officially on that yet. I think it's still kind of up in the air. So, I will say just you're definitely higher on Renfro than I am. I'd probably put him closer to 20, and I think it's one of those situations. If you're like the last seed, you snuck into the playoffs, you probably objectively don't have the same team or as the guy in first. He is a guy I would rock with then because you need that big potential. So that is a situation where I do think
I
he
mean,
could
I hope
easily
he
come
doesn't
through.
do anything. I will say that. I hope he doesn't do anything.
I hope he tears it up. Uh, uh,
That seemed like that was out of spite. Like you have no other
it
reason
was
to say that.
it was 100% out of spite. You're not wrong. He doesn't. I actually haven't checked my matchup, so it could affect me. I probably shouldn't say things like that. On the Brown side of the ball, I mean, it's Chubb. Um, it's maybe Hunt, depending on the situation you're in. I would say playoff wise, Hunt is probably you're hoping you have a better option, but on this team it's Chubb and it kind of stops there.
Yeah, I don't think. I honestly think there is very little scenarios that you start anybody other than Nick Chubb on the Cleveland Browns. I'm curious where they have Jarvis Landry, like how far down he is. I was wondering if he even cracks the top 30, and here he doesn't. So, which is kind of what I was thinking. He's probably a borderline top 30 wide receiver, and if that starts for you, then good luck. Hopefully, I'm
Yeah.
guessing the rest of your team is loaded. Maybe you have like Austin Eckler, Jonathan Taylor, and maybe you got Tom Brady late. Like you could, maybe George Kittle, or even Mark Andrews. Like you could have a loaded team, Cooper Cup, without having and just 3 stud wide receivers. But hopefully you have better options.
Yeah. Patriots, in my opinion, are kind of in the same boat. They're obviously a much better team, but fantasy wise, like Myers and Harris are guys that maybe. I mean, your team. You know if you have to, but I just wouldn't be excited. I know you get on me every week about this. I wouldn't be excited if either one of those guys were in my playoff lineup.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're still, they're always these New England guys are always ranked like in the low 20s, low to mid. That depends on your team. Like they're always ranked
Yeah.
around there. One guy's gonna have a huge day. Damian Harris had a huge day. Uh, and this game might got banged up too. And the last time we've seen him, so yeah. So I mean, it just depends on your roster. Obviously, they're always these guys. Whoever's out there is probably a top 15 guy. Like whoever gets the bulk of it, you just don't know. Is it going to be Stevenson or is it going to be Harris or somebody else?
Yeah.
So it's risky for sure. But one of them's going to be a top 15 guy probably. You just don't know which one.
It's tough to know which one. Other side of that ball, the Colts. After Taylor's obviously a stud. Pittman is the other guy who went on a great run, had a few bad weeks. Before the bye week, was back up to 17. I think he's probably in that 15 to 20 range. So I think a lot of teams are going to be starting him, but at the same time, there's a good chance in the playoffs, if you're depending on roster makeup and stuff, he could definitely be sitting. I know in the league I've got him, he's sitting, but I just happen to have good wide receivers. But Pittman's a guy that if he's your third wide receiver or your flex, I think you're in an okay spot.
Yeah, this is the one where I generally just say you go with your studs, but I am definitely worried about one. New England is playing phenomenal.
They are.
Um, I think this would be a time where Pittman falls pretty significantly because of the matchup. So I would say Pittman is probably just outside the top 20. He might be around 20. He's somewhere there, but I do
I
think
think
he
he's probably
probably
right around
falls
there.
a little bit just because the matchup. And I'm definitely scared of New England. Like I think they're playing. I mean, they're the hottest team in football, so I I would probably try to get away from Pittman if I could. But he's the number one receiver on this team. So like if New England's able to stop the run a little bit, like which I mean they're really good. Taylor's still probably going to have a really good day. Pittman, probably is going to get somewhere between 7 and 10 targets. It's pretty good. We'll see if
Yeah.
they can convert. I just don't know if they're like I like New England. I think they're playing so well. Like I don't know how many opportunities there's going to be for touchdowns. I don't know what the upside is here.
Did it at least feel a little bit dirty to say you like New England? Because that would hurt me to just physically say. Like they're playing
Indianapolis
very well, but
Indianapolis actually is it's basically a coin flip here. The over under is pretty low. The Cleveland one's over under is at 40. Cleveland's offense has not been playing well. That actually seems I wouldn't be surprised if that's like a 17-10 game. But yeah, I like New England in this game, and I don't think this is going to be a high scoring game. So we'll see though. But yeah, it feels weird like New England still being good. I don't understand this. This is the
yeah, I don't
stupidest thing
understand
ever.
anything that happens in New England and or with Tom Brady. I've stopped trying. Um, next, we get to maybe the first team where I think in most playoffs nobody will be started, and that's the Tennessee Titans. Um, I think there's a good chance that if you're in the playoffs, none of these guys are guys you want to roll with.
Yeah, I mean, I think Foreman had an okay day
Yeah, but
because he had a touchdown, and that was almost all early as well. He was on my bench on one of my leagues, and I was like, "Dang it!" And then he didn't really do anything beyond like after the first little bit. So I think that was, if I remember that correctly, this past week. So maybe that was
I
week
think so
12. I think
too.
that was this week where he got it all pretty early. So yeah, Foreman is maybe top 30 running back again. Like you're
You'd have to be in a pinch.
like again, your rest of your roster is probably loaded. If you would have to play Foreman, so yeah, and even then, there's probably other guys that, I mean, you're gonna play a wide receiver over him for sure. So it'd have to be your second running back. So it's like it seems so unlikely that he would be your second running back. Maybe again, watch the COVID stuff. Like there's a chance that you could miss. Like I don't think he's a bad play if you're missing a lot of your like. There could be a lot of people missing, but
Yeah.
he's a starting running back. Definitely could get a touchdown or more, but not a terrible play. But another team against Pittsburgh here, another game where it doesn't really feel like a high scoring game to me. So I don't know how many opportunities it will be. I mean, again, I don't know, but the over under is pretty low as well in this game. A lot of low ones. So we'll
Yeah.
see.
Like you said, Pittsburgh on the other side of that ball. Obviously, Harris is a must start stud. Johnson also in that group. Claypool's kind of. I think Claypool's going to get some starts in playoffs, just as like a last ditch wide receiver. I wouldn't be excited about it, but I could see it happening. Um, Mainly because I think there's still people who've been riding with him all season. Personally, though, especially I just don't. Ben has been playing very well. I don't know if he can keep that up. And I don't see a situation where I wouldn't take the upside of somebody else over Claypool if I was in a position where he was even remotely starting for me.
Yeah, I think again, I'm talking a lot about the over unders in these games, but like Vegas is really good. There's a reason why Vegas has Vegas is a big
Very nice
place.
buildings.
Yeah, there's a
Those aren't cheap.
reason, right? They're really good at these things. And the over under in this game is 41.5. It's close to the Cleveland game. That's
Yeah.
how much they don't think of these offenses, I guess. So like,
Well, there's not much to think about these
yeah,
two
so
offenses.
so when you think about it, this game feels like a grind sort of game, and Deontay Johnson is a top five, maybe wide receiver. He's insane. Is there anything left for Chase Claypool? I know he had a nice solid game here, 8 for 93, but again, there's not going to be, I don't think, a whole lot of opportunities. Been those for 2 touchdowns, maybe best
Yeah.
case, maybe.
That's
So I shouldn't say
that's what I
best
mean is
case, but like
there's just I just don't see the upside. And like right now, if you have a stud, you play him. And if you have a guy with like good upside in the playoffs, you want to play him. And Claypool, I don't think fits in either one of those two categories.
Yeah, and Fryermuth is a tight end you
If
would
if you've been
play.
rolling with
I
him,
mean,
you're playing him.
there's a good chance, a lot of playoff teams have tight ends that are in that range of,
Yeah.
just that aren't the elite guys because you waited on them and you're just plugging and playing. So you could definitely be playing somebody like Fryermuth, and if you have been playing him, keep doing it. So he's solid.
Yep. Panthers. I mean, it's DJ Moore, and that's about it in the playoffs. There could still be some playoff teams who are rolling McCaffrey, and they have to play Hubbard because they handcuffed him. But other than that, you don't want any other part of this offense.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I was curious where Hubbard was. I'm like, is he? I'll
It
get that.
probably isn't great. It's
No, for
probably
yeah,
27.
he's late. I was gonna say, is he in the top 30? Yeah,
Yeah.
27. So he actually was
Is
27.
he?
Yeah,
Is he really?
that's what I got here. So again, this is not, this is just
I
fantasy
don't know
pros
why.
putting this together. But
Usually, I don't know why on that one. Usually, I go like I don't know, 25 to 30. That one I picked a number and I happen to be right.
I will
So
say this with DJ Moore, as much as I like him, and I think he is absolutely fantastic. I've said that many times. I love me some DJ Moore. With what's going at quarterback, not great
it's
quarterback play.
yeah.
I think there's a very, very good chance that you are not playing DJ Moore. I know he
Really.
was a
I
stud,
just
but he's, I mean,
I just
he's,
think roster construction is going to force people to play him.
I mean, he was drafted at wide receiver 22, so definitely wasn't, a top guy. He hasn't been top 20 since I've, erased him since at least week 6. Beyond that, like he's been just close to top 20. So
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking at rankings, I think he can't be a top 20 receiver, so because he hasn't even been top 20 in at least 10 weeks, probably. So I feel like you have to, not have to, but I think there's a good chance. Obviously, he's really talented. He gets open. He had 10 targets in this game. But with the quarterback play, I just feel like it's crazy though. If DJ Moore was on a good team, like
Oh,
with a good quarterback, he would be one of the top. He'd be a top 5, I think, fantasy option. Instead, he's got. I mean, that's not true of a lot of elite receivers, but I wish he could go somewhere else because this is not a good quarterback team. It's just
yeah.
not good.
No. Other side, we got Bills. I mean, I'm just going to fire through these real quick. Allen, Knox, Diggs. I think all guys that are almost must starts. I mean, Knox, if you happen to get a stud and Knox for some reason you're rocking them both, don't start Knox. But for the almost everybody who has Knox is starting him. And I'm sorry, in the playoffs, I'm not touching this running back situation with a 10-foot pole. Not
Yeah.
a chance.
I think there are so many better options here, even with Singletary getting a bulk of the snaps. I mean, maybe like, again, you got to, there's very, very, I'm not, Singletary is definitely rostered, so he could be like one of your last running backs. If everything goes wrong with COVID,
Yeah.
okay. But assuming, you got you're probably, you should have better options. And then beyond Diggs for receivers, yeah, Knox is a borderline top 5 guy, maybe even.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like him. There's nothing besides Diggs, so I don't see how you could play any of the other guys. So yeah, definitely Diggs and yeah, Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders are way down there. So I don't think even a deep league they probably get played in the playoffs.
No.
It would probably
In a
not.
deep league, maybe, but yeah. Uh, Washington football team up next. Gibson didn't have a great week 14. I still think if you've got him, you're rocking him. I think he's got the ability. He showed since the bye has been very good before this week. I'm not ready to throw him away after this week. I'm definitely rolling with him. McLaurin though, McLaurin has been on a little bit of a. He had a really good week 11, but other than that, like since his bye in week 9, not good. 0 points this week. McLaurin is a situation where there's a lot of upside. We've seen what he can do, but I'm not going to fault you if you have guys you like more for throwing him on the bench in the playoffs and not trusting him.
Well, with McLaurin, so you could see he only played 40 half the snaps. He got knocked out in the third with a concussion, but even before then, obviously,
I was gonna say that's the third. That's most of the
uh,
game.
he missed. Okay, I guess technically it is most of the game, but it was still a lot of game left. But with that said, he wasn't, obviously hadn't done anything. He had 0 points,
Yeah,
and
if he had like 5 points in the third, this would be a completely different conversation. But he had nothing going into
Um,
the
this is tough because McLaurin, I've talked about him. I don't want to know if he's my favorite receiver in the NFL. It might be that guy right there, but he's one of them.
So you
And
like disappointing wide receivers?
Terry McLaurin is a top 10 wide receiver, and maybe not fantasy right now, but he's really really good. I love me some Terry McLaurin. Okay, anyways, I think he is probably I don't know if I could play him, honestly. I don't know.
Not where I thought you were going with that. I thought you were getting ready to rip me on this one.
How I think he's, there's a lot of guys in that mid, 15 to 20 that I'm like, I don't really feel that confident with. But like Tyler Lockett is someone who now has proved like he had a really good day. So I'd put Lockett as vaulted
Oh,
over
for
him.
sure.
So
No
like
question.
he showed it to me. McLaurin could have done that this week. He obviously didn't until he had the concussion, and he may not even play in this game. But if he
No.
does, there's a good chance you are playing him because where you would have drafted him. But um, depending on your roster, I mean, I don't know what the rest of your wide receivers are, but I mean, I still think he's
Yeah.
probably a top 20 guy or close to it. So again, you just kind of use that. There's obviously plenty of teams that are in playoffs that a top 20 is just not good enough. You might have three
Yeah.
top 10 guys. So, take that for what it is. I still think he's probably top 20 just because of his talent, but it's very close to being outside of that.
Yeah. I'll say this. I hope everybody is in a better position where they don't need to rely on him going into this week. Next up, the Eagles coming off a bye week, so it's got to be so nice to get a bye this late in the season. I will say that. Like, just all right, take a break, and we got 4 more weeks of football and come in fresh. So Hurts, if you've been rolling with him, you're rolling with him. You're not. Actually, he's definitely back, right? Do I
Again,
remember
I
that correct?
haven't really looked at injury stuff because there's so much of this COVID stuff, so I've kind of been
Yeah.
waiting. I'm like, I'll just wait. But I think he will be back. So
I think I remember he was like it wasn't really that big of a
yeah,
deal. Um, so Hertz is for sure. Um, wide receivers, tight end, you're not going anywhere near. And honestly, for playoff teams, I think there's not gonna be a whole lot of playoff teams where their running backs are relevant.
yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, Miles Sanders had a nice stick. Gardner Minshew
Yeah.
actually had a really nice. I'm not expect, but he actually looked pretty good.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you missed Dallas Goddard is definitely being played. If you drafted Dallas Goddard, I don't see how you don't play him. Coming off a 6 for 105 game,
I
two
just missed
touchdown.
that. That's on me. I completely forgot that
Um,
he was there.
but
I'll be
I mean,
honest.
he's still like borderline top 10. He is a
Yeah.
top 10. He's a top 10 guy. So I doubt if you draft, you've been rocking him. So I mean,
Yeah.
you could have picked off
That one's
Dawson
on me.
Knox. And I would play Dawson Knox over him, but like
Yeah.
most likely you've just been rocking Goddard. So
Yeah. I don't
um,
think if you have Goddard, you cared enough to go out and like use a waiver claim on Knox, to be honest. So that was just on me. Completely
I
forgot
think
that Goddard
besides
was there.
Hurts and Goddard, I feel like there's most teams would not be anywhere near the rest of this team.
Yeah, which is sad. I really like Miles Sanders, and I wish he was just performing better than he's been performing. Um, do you want to take the one player anybody cares about in the next team?
The Houston Texans. Remember, Brevin Jordan was tight end 6 on his 4 catches for 26 yards and a touchdown.
Congratulations.
Um,
You play him in your playoff.
yeah. The one thing is, yeah. So I was gonna say something about Royce Freeman being a number 20, but that doesn't matter. He had 6 catches. I like
Yeah, and this week
Texans.
it could be Burkhead again.
Yeah,
Like,
Burkhead was number 24, so it wasn't like he was far off. But they do throw to the running backs a lot. Davis Mills threw for 300 yards. I mean, that's not bad. I mean, I'm just gonna say this real quick though. This like on an honest note, like if Davis Mills throws for 300 yards, which is a big if, Brandon Cooks is easily one of the top 15 guys.
no, that
So,
was the only guy I wanted to talk about.
but yeah, 18 points here for Brandon Cooks. So a really solid day on 11 targets. If Brandon Cooks is getting 11 targets, I remember when we did the pre-draft stuff, I was like, there's no way I'm drafting. Like, I know this. And if I knew what the quarterback situation was, I would have been like, if you just told me that, I'd be like, I'm so glad I didn't draft it. But Brandon Cooks has found value throughout the
Mhm.
year. with bad quarterback play. So props to him. He's been really well above ADP, and that's the only guy you're touching. And even with that, there's a good chance, even with how
You're not.
solid, you may not even be playing him. Like in all honesty, with how your team, he's probably just outside the top 20 receivers, so it's a good chance you have better options. But I still like me some Brandon Cooks. He's been the one shining light to this Houston Texans offense.
Yeah. Next up, the Jags. I don't think we're going to spend a ton of time on this. There's really one guy to talk about, and it was not pretty this week. That is for sure. James Robinson. What was it? 4 yards, if I remember correct. Yeah, 4 yards. Very, very bad game this week. I've been very high on Robinson all year. I really like him. I thought he was gonna crack the top 10. I will say I think if you have him, you're most likely he's gonna be one of your better options. But I don't feel great about it.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance you're not. I mean, so this obviously is the only guy I talk about real quick. Trevor Lawrence was awful. I'm so sorry again. I have to apologize every week for Trevor Lawrence because I really thought he had a real shot at being solid
It
towards the end
stinks
of the
because
year.
they've got a great schedule,
But Urban Meyer is the absolute worst. He might be the worst. This might be hyperbole. The worst NFL coach in modern history. I would not be shocked if
I
you
don't think
start
that's
looking
that
at
big of hyperbole.
he is so bad. He's so bad with the players. And I heard somebody say this. I think it was she does putting on Twitter. She made like a video about Urban Meyer about how tough the NFL is now that both teams can pay the players. I'm sure many people have made that joke before.
Yeah, it's fair.
But yeah. Yeah, this is really bad, and I think there's a good chance you don't play James Robinson. It's hard to. I mean, this is the worst he can. He had 4 yards, no catches either. I mean, he had 0.4 points.
Yeah, no,
He's outside the top
it was
20, I
bad.
think, easily, and maybe not easily, but he could definitely come back. He's had good weeks, but I'm interested. I know maybe we'll talk about this over the offseason. I'm interested in what happens with James Robinson because he's a stud. I love James Robinson. What happens with this team? Well, I'm guessing Urban will be gone, but with
I can't imagine to keep him.
ETN, who was he was their number 1 draft pick, and with this, they got Trevor Lawrence, they got ETN as well at running back. ETN is great talent. What do they do with James Robinson? I'll be interested to see. He might not be on the Jags. And
I don't know the contract situation, but I could see him.
But they have 2. I'm gonna assume ETN will be a stud, a really good running back. So I'll be interested next year what happens with the running back situation. But that's for a later time. Right now, James Robinson outside the top 20, in my opinion, and nobody else matters. And Urban Meyer should not have a job. They're just trying to. They want him to quit. They don't want to pay his contract. They're just please just quit, Urban.
Yeah, he ain't gonna quit. You don't welcome. Here's the thing: when you know you're gonna get fired, you don't quit because you want that severance.
Yeah.
Or whatever the NFL equivalent of severance is. Next up, Cowboys. I mean, this is another team you're starting Prescott, you're starting Lamb, you're starting Cooper. I guess there's maybe a situation where you're not starting Cooper, but I think most of the time you are, and unfortunately, you're starting Elliott and you're going to be disappointed. Like, I don't know what else to say.
I don't know. Again, it depends on the roster. If you only play in 2 running back, if he's like your 3rd running back, which could, I know you drafted him high, but he could, depending on who other guys you got. You could have got. What if you have Cordell Patterson? You would definitely have him over him, and then another guy. So I mean, again, I think there's a good chance. I don't think he's in the top 15. I think he may, probably cracks the top 20. I just don't think you can put him in the top 15 based on what he's doing right now.
No.
So where you drafted him, that would be the only reason why you may not be able to get away from him because it was your first pick. So how many stud running backs do you have? Did you get Cordell Patterson? Nice. Did you get some of these other, values? Elijah Mitchell, if he goes, he probably played him over him. But then there's plenty of other guys I'm sure that you could have that would be over him that you would have got later. But yeah, and I don't even know. Cooper is kind of a wild card. Like he definitely could have a big day, but obviously Lamb, I think you're starting. Yeah. But
Lamb, you're starting. I think Cooper is
meh.
A good upside. He's probably what would you guess? 25?
Yeah,
probably?
he's maybe a borderline top 20. And as bad as it was, I have a hard time believing that you have a better option than Dalton Schultz if you have been rocking with him. I know he had a bad day, but I don't know if you have something better. So I think you probably have to, and you're not gonna love it, but I doubt you're gonna find somebody on the waiver wire
Yes, I'll give you that.
that
He's
would be
You're
better
not
than
going to get a
Dalton
better guy on the
Schultz.
waiver wire.
Yeah.
No. Giants. I'll just say it. I don't I don't want any single player on this team anywhere near a playoff roster. And I say that with Saquon Barkley being on this team.
I will say this. You're going to disagree with me, I think. Maybe not. Because they're both players that we don't really like. Even you just said. I would rather play Saquon Barkley over Ezekiel Elliott because I believe there is way more upside with Saquon. I know Saquon could. Zeke's gonna be out there. Saquon could give you nothing, but I just feel like with Saquon, I just don't. I don't think with Zeke there's just no upside there. Maybe like some touchdowns. I guess that's the thing with Zeke. You're hoping for touchdowns. More likely
Yeah.
to happen in the Dallas offense. But with Barkley, he's involved in the receiving game, obviously the rushing game. Uh, Two running backs that I really don't like. I didn't like going into the year either, and if I had to pick one or the other, not that you would have both on your team, but I would choose Barkley.
No. I think I'm going Zeke there, but I don't think you're
Yeah,
insane
you
for not.
could have both on your team if you would have traded because they both have had low values throughout the
Yeah, you
year.
could have
So,
bought low, which if you bought low, and I'm sorry because whatever you bought him at, it was still too high. Um, but I would go Zeke there, but I don't think you're crazy
I think
for
they're
going
both in
the other way.
the same spot though. They're both like
I
top
just
20
I
border like
I
in
would
that.
rather bank on the chances of Zeke getting in the end zone because I think that's what you need from either one of these guys is touchdowns to really be have value. Uh, Cards next. Um, this one's fairly easy. Kyler, Connor. Um, it looked like Edwards was going to be back, so he'll probably be back next week. I still think Connor has done enough to prove. I mean, obviously he's been extraordinarily good. This is his job. Edmonds is going to be more of a role player going forward, in my opinion. And we've talked about this. I know we're both big fans of Hopkins, and me not nearly as much as you are, but I don't know how you can trust him when it's this important.
Yeah, I mean, there's a chance again where you drafted him. Um, that based on your roster construction, like it might be tough to get away from. He did have 12 targets. Um, I like him over. I mean, I have to look, but I think he might crack the top 15. He would be borderline for me. I do think he's
Yeah.
inside the top 20. Again, there's a good chance if you're in the playoffs that you have better options. 12 targets in this offense. Not a great day overall. I mean, Kyler did throw for 400 yards, and Hopkins only had 54 of it, so that's not a good. That's not good. AJ Green 100 yards. What is
He's
happening?
done this a couple times this
Yeah,
season. He's just popped up
he's
for
been,
a
but
great
he's
game.
actually. I mean, he's been solid, way better than I think everybody thought he would be throughout the year. But yeah, so I think I think there's a good amount of teams though that will not play him, which is
Yeah.
crazy with how talented he is. I think a lot of people coming in this year either had him as wide receiver one, like as just
Oh yeah.
not ranking that. I think he was a few spots down, but as a pure
A wide
receiver,
receiver one. Yeah.
he was one of the top guy or one of them with Devonte Adams and a few other guys. And now, I mean, it's just he's overlooked just because he's the production hasn't been there. And with James Conner, having Edmonds back does take probably a little bit of value away because he's on the field every play. James Conner played almost every snap, but he's still one of the top running backs, and Edmonds is not gonna really bring. He's not gonna. Edmonds is you can't play Edmonds. He's not gonna get the touchdowns. That's Connor. So yeah, it's Connor and him. Edmonds being back does hurt his value a little bit, but I don't think it's overly that much.
Yeah. Two guys are really relevant. Both have some injury concerns going into the week. Swift and Hawkinson. The initial report right now is Hawkinson they feel pretty good about. Swift I think was on the edge going into this week, so he's probably also leaning towards yes. So just we'll talk about more on Saturday when we're a little bit closer. We know a little bit more of the injuries, but I think we can both agree if these guys are on the field, they're both must starts.
Yeah, Swift has been great. Please come back, Swift. I really need you. I mean, I am my running backs with Swift and Cook. I feel amazing, but one guy goes down. I don't have anybody. Tony Pollard is
Yeah,
next in line, which I don't hate Tony Pollard. He could go off, but like you never know.
he's not
But
those guys.
he's not DeAndre Swift or Dalvin Cook, and I do have the back. I do have Jamal Williams in case, and but I might even play Pollard over Jamal Williams because Williams hasn't been great. So we'll see, but please come back. I need you, Swift. Also, just for your health, I want you to enjoy football again.
Don't pretend like you care about his health.
um, but yeah, besides those guys, there's Hawkinson. Obviously, if he's out there, you're playing him, and Swift is out there, you're playing him. And if Swift isn't out there, there's a chance you would play Jamal Williams, but you
No,
would.
please don't.
There's a chance you'd be a starting running back. There's a chance, but
I mean, if you're in the spot you're in, sure, but I think that's.
yeah,
I'm sorry if that's what it come down to.
not a great spot.
No. Next up, we got the Jets. I got nothing. I have nothing on this team.
I guess Michael Carter, if he comes back again, we'll have to talk more about injuries, and I think he is
Yeah.
eligible to come back maybe this week, but we'll see. If not, you might have to. But he was pretty good up until going down with an injury, so he was pretty solid. He was definitely coming down with coming he was. I think
Yeah.
the last time I updated, he was running back 22, so he's somewhere around running back 20, but he came up quite a bit. So he week 8 he was running back 1, and he had a running back 12 in week 10 and a running back 13 in week 7. So definitely really solid top 20 guy. And when he's back, you're going to be maybe tempted to play him, but I think you probably have better options at this point just because it's too risky. He could have a big day whenever he comes back, whether it's this week or next week. But if it's for your championship and you're looking at Michael Carter or I don't even know. I'm just gonna throw Elijah Mitchell out there, but I think most people would go Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah, I don't think
but
that's close. Yeah.
Top 20 guy. Mitchell's ranked like 18th this week, so that's why I thought of him. But maybe Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Maybe even that. It would be close, and I still think you probably go with. We'll see what Clyde Edwards-Helaire does this week, and with Darrell Williams in that mix. But I think you still have to go with the guy. Unless Clyde Edwards-Helaire just doesn't do anything this week, and you have reason to suspect he won't do anything next week, you probably have to go with the guy who's been out there. It's just a little too risky.
And I'm not opposed to if Carter comes back this week and plays really well, like I'm immediately cool. I'm not taking a chance on his first week back in the playoffs. I'm just not doing it.
Yeah, it's tough.
Especially when it's not like a clear cut. Oh yeah, he's been ready to go. He just had to like work out whatever. Like I don't want any part of that. With the Dolphins,
when you said no part of it, like including Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon, you would definitely play those guys over Michael Carter.
His first week back, yes.
I think so. I think he's probably not even breaking top 30. I was just giving some. I think you got to have him pretty low right now because we just don't know. He might,
but he also is one decent week from
rocketing in that top 20. Yep.
Yeah. Dolphins up next. Waddle. I think you're for sure playing. He's been playing really well before the bye. I mean, there's definitely situations where you've just got studs, but I think for a lot of teams that have him, they're going to be playing him. Gesicki, in my opinion, he's one of those guys. If you've been rocking with him, he's kind of like Freiermuth, that kind of guy. If you've been rolling with him, you're not going to find something better on the wire. Gaskin is the one that's interesting though. He's been playing fairly decent this season, had a few good weeks. To me, he's probably right around 20, maybe a little bit outside, maybe a little bit like he's probably right in that ballpark. So I'd say he's one of those guys we've talked about a lot. You might be in a position where you have to start him, but I think you're hoping you have better options.
Yeah, I think you would probably have a tough time putting him in the 20. I probably mid 20s somewhere in there, but I think when you start looking at it, I think you'll see. You always and then you realize okay, it might be kind of tough.
I do feel like we've said everybody is like 25, so we could just be wildly wrong.
I'm kind of looking here, like I'm seeing like they have him like a little bit even lower than that, but some of these guys like Darrell Williams, Miles Sanders, Hubbard, at least a few. I probably have mid 20s somewhere there, but we'll see.
I like it more than Hubbard, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's somewhere around 25, I think. And so that depends on your roster. I think there's a good chance to get away from him though. And And Waddle, I don't see how he's not a top 15, maybe probably top 15, close to it, somewhere in
Yeah.
that 15 to 20, but I think he might be closer to 15. Somebody like him over DeAndre Hopkins, even though it pains, I
Oh,
don't
there's no
see
question for me. I'd absolutely start Waddle.
I don't see how, like, even with Hopkins being I think most people would say a better receiver at this point in their career. Waddle's obviously early. Like, Hopkins is the better receiver with how Waddle's been playing. I mean, I think you got to put him there. So I think if I say Hopkins is borderline top 15, I think then Waddle's probably a spot ahead of him. Maybe. I think that's kind of where he is, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think that is super fair. Next up with the Bengals, couple of down weeks for Mixon. He was on a tear coming out of week 12. Um, he's still a guy. I don't see how you get away from him. I mean, he still obviously has that huge upside. Couple bad weeks, you're rolling with him. He's one of the best running backs in football. Chase finally got back over the. He's had some bad weeks. Had a really nice week last week. Um, to me, his upside is so high that I can't get away from starting him. I can't do it, and I don't think many people will. Um, and I think Higgins has worked his way into the decision. A lot of these guys I've talked about, you could have studs and you could be benching him, but I think if you are starting him, there's worse spots to be in.
Yeah, I mean, I think Higgins is a top 15 guy. I mean, as he's playing right now, these last 3 weeks, even back to week 7, I mean, he's been top 25 pretty much every week except one.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I think he's. I do think a little bit. This is kind of like, I'm not surprised because I love T Higgins. I think you like him as well,
yeah,
and Jamar Chase. You love him. You love
I love
him.
him.
Um, and I like him a lot too. But Jamar Chase had all those touchdowns at the end of the year and was, tearing it up. And it's like, this has to regress a little bit. You said no, he's going to
Doesn't
score a touch.
have to.
He doesn't, but he's got to regress a little bit. And it has. But T. Higgins kind of was the opposite. Like, T. Higgins, this is going to start going. Like, he's going to start going. And he started going. Chase came back a little bit. And this type of week we just see Higgins had 100 yards receiving. Chase had 77 and a couple
Few
touchdowns.
touchdowns.
Actually, could have had a third one that was overturned.
Mhm.
So yeah, these both of these guys are top 15 guys in my opinion. Chase probably maybe even top 10. He's right there, and then
He's
Higgins
right
closer
there.
to
Yeah.
15. But yeah, I think comfortably, uh, I would say top 20 for Higgins. But I would say
Oh
probably,
yeah.
like, I'm looking at these guys that they have ranked. All right, I'll just start with number 10. Stephon Diggs. Okay, I put him over
Yeah.
probably both of these guys. Then uh 11 is CD Lamb. I probably put Chase over Lamb. So well
You know I would,
okay,
but
so Tyler Lockett. So Lamb Lockett or Lockett Lamb, however you want that. Or sorry, Chase Lamb or Lamb Chase. And then 13 they have Tyler Lockett. I definitely put Chase over him. And I think I could even put Higgins over him, but that might be. And then you have Keenan Allen. I definitely put Keenan Allen over Higgins though. So, and then they have T Higgins. So that's at number 15. DeAndre Hopkins behind him, Hunter Renfro,
I
Mike
think
Williams stuff.
I think he's
So
very properly ranked there.
all those guys behind him, I think I would put him above all those guys. So the only one is Hunter Renfro because I feel I might put him over him, but
Nope.
that's yeah, I think but I might put Lockett below him. So he's probably like number 15 for me. So
Yeah, I
he's
think that's
he's
super fair. I
he's
think I like
he's a
Lockett a little
stud.
bit more, but honestly, to me, they're very like so close that flip a coin. So,
And
uh,
Chase is one of those guys that he definitely. I mean, we've seen it the last few weeks. Like, he may not have great games. That's going to happen when he's not scoring touchdowns. This game wasn't great for a while. He got all that late,
mhm.
but he is just too. I mean, if he caught all the passes, if he was like Larry Fitzgerald hands, this is one of the greatest, maybe probably the greatest rookie season ever because he's had so many drop passes where it could have been touchdowns, big plays, or plays that he could have made, maybe not necessarily a drop, but like this could have been maybe the greatest rookie season ever as a receiver or close to it. And the drops they've kind of come at bad
No.
spots. So
I also feel
if
like it feels like every week we're saying, and he could have had another one, but
yeah,
it was called back.
yeah.
Like it feels like that
It
happens a lot this
every
season.
chance it seems like he has a touchdown. That he could have had a touchdown if he would have made the play, or whatever. Like he's in a spot. He's so fast. Obviously, he's like ran, I think, a little bit faster than me. I would say just a little bit. For
See,
the team.
I am a man, and I can admit it. He ran significantly faster than me, like a lot. Um, so next up, we got the Broncos. Um, Fant is in that group of if you've been rocking him all year, you're rocking him still. You don't have a better option. Um, the real conversation here comes down to the running backs, and they both performed insanely well this week. Williams, this is 3 weeks in a row where he's performed extraordinarily well. I don't know what to do. Like I have Melvin Gordon. He didn't start for me, but I that's also because I have Dalvin Cook and Leonard Fournette, so I don't feel bad about not starting him. But I think there's probably a lot of teams in that spot where like Melvin Gordon and William, they're both good, but I just think a lot of teams are going to have better options.
If somebody said, "Would you start Melvin Gordon or Javante Williams?" I would just say yes. It's like they're both great options. If you're between those two, the answer is yes. It's hard to pick between them.
Yeah.
I like Javante Williams a little bit more now, but
And I have a soft spot for Melvin Gordon. So, but that's
but
personal
both of
preference.
these guys I would rank over Ezekiel Elliott and Saquon Barkley. That may be how low
Yes.
I am on Saquon and I think Saquon and Zeke are borderline top 20 guys, and I think these guys are top 20, just maybe like a couple spots ahead of them. I think these guys could be like 16, 17, and Barkley could be 18 and Zeke 19. That's kind of where I'm at with these guys.
Mhm.
With John, I'll probably put Javante Williams one spot over Gordon, but again, it's just I don't know. I'm just
That's a preference thing.
it's a
You're
50.
probably the numbers point to you being correct recently. I just for some reason I've just got this
They're
spot
on
for
the
Melvin
field.
Gordon.
They completely 50-50. This week it was 50% Melvin Gordon, 49% Javante Williams, and 1%. One of those snaps went to Demaria Crockett. So there's a name. He was out there for one of those plays. But
He's a player.
yeah, so yeah, that's where I stand with those. So I think there's a good chance you are playing them. But as we've said, a lot of these guys that are like borderline top 20 or just inside top 20, depending on there's a good chance you can't just say it's a must start when there's players
No,
like
because you could be in a situation like I am, like where you just happen to.
you could
I
have
got I got lucky with Fournette.
James Conner, who is clearly
Yeah,
a top five, top seven guy. You could have you could have any combination of these guys. Like Dalvin Cook, you could probably not have Dalvin Cook and Jonathan Taylor, but you could have got Dalvin Cook and James Conner, obviously, or Dalvin Cook and Leonard Fournette, like what you have,
yeah,
or there's a lot of mixes, and then even got Patterson, so like that would clearly all be ranked ahead of these guys.
yeah.
So I don't want to say they're must starts, but I do think they're both pretty good. So uh,
They're in a weird spot. I feel like I haven't said this much. They're not must starts, but you're entirely comfortable if you are starting them. Like it's a weird spot to be in, but you're super comfortable if you are. Um,
especially for guys who are on the field half the time. Like they're not
yeah,
like you can't. No, neither one is the main guy. They're completely split, and they still find fantasy value only be on the field half the time.
yeah. So probably because there's no other options on that team. But next up, we got the Falcons. You touched on it a little bit. Cordell Patterson, um, still in one of the. I mean, a fantasy MVP for a guy who just wasn't drafted to uh to be where he is. To me, the upside he has had a few like outside the top 5 games, which is where he was kind of living. But to me, he's still almost a must start. You'd have to be in a really great spot to not. Pitts to me is in that group of if you've been rolling with him, you're going to continue. There's not a better option on the waiver wire. And then after that, to me, this team is even at this point. If they told me Ridley was playing, I don't think his first week back I'm playing him. So it's Patterson and it's Pitts.
Yeah, I 100%. Patterson is probably a top 10 guy or close to it. And Pitts
No,
is you don't love it because he's been obviously disappointing overall. Just not really his
you just
fault.
don't.
I think he's
You just
really
don't
really
have a better
good.
option at this point.
Yeah, so you gotta rock him. The only way is like if you picked up like a Dawson Knox because maybe and okay like or you had to have two tight ends on some crazy leagues. Yeah, sure,
No,
you could definitely play Dawson Knox. You probably will play Dawson
I
Knox over
would.
him,
Yeah,
but outside of a situation like that, I don't think you're sitting Kyle Pitts.
yeah. Next up, we have the 49ers. Um, the greatest tight end that's ever lived, George Kittle, is a stud. He's not the greatest tight end ever. I do very much love him. And Elijah Mitchell, I don't think this is a
We're gonna
situation
talk
we'll.
about him later, by the way. The greatest tight end that's ever played. We'll get to him soon.
But Kittle's playing in this game. How are we going to talk about him later? That seems like bad show prep. But Elijah Mitchell will definitely touch on him on Saturday and the injury. Um, but at least to me, if he's playing, he's in all but the most stacked of running back lineups is a start.
Yeah, we'll see with Mitchell again. He's probably like top 15 if he's healthy. Uh, just because he's banged up a little bit, we'll see. I mean, he was even top 10 before he went out, but yeah, he's
Yeah,
definitely the guy when he's in there. You don't have to worry about
yeah,
it. Him not being the guy, even with Jeff Wilson being solid, I guess in this game. And Debo Samuel is
and
a
Debo, yeah,
top 5, top 7 receiver. So
yeah,
Debo, obviously, you're rocking. And
yep,
yes, Kittle is very good, and I will say it. I've said it every week that Travis Kelce is the best tight end, like ranked. He should always be ranked one. This week, and the Kansas City bye, I did not put Travis Kelce at one. I believe that Travis Kelce should not be tight end one. It should be George Kittle.
yeah. And they should get his jacket ready. We're going to Canton. Love George
Definitely, definitely going to Kansas.
Kittle. Yeah, I think that was pretty locked in. I wasn't going down on a limb on that one. Next up, we got the Seahawks. We've talked about Lockett has really shown up the last couple weeks, especially in Week 14. Looked fantastic. He's worked his way back into that. I mean, we were talking about like I remember specifically having a conversation like, and I know I did this. We benched him for Pittman, like when he was in his
Yeah, I mean,
downtime. Like,
it made sense. I mean, there was a lot of bad
yeah.
weeks.
So he's really come back. It looks he's once again the focus of this offense, like he was early in the season. He's a guy who, yes, you could have stacked wide receiver, but I think for 95% of the teams that have him, he's starting this week. And I'm going to be honest with you, I think that's the only guy on this team that I want any part of.
Yeah, I mean, Rashad Penny, I do think is kind of interesting
He's
because
interesting, but I don't want to put my
I mean it is tough, but again, he should obviously be owned. And
yeah.
depending on COVID stuff, I like him over a lot of guys that you would have been rocking all year. So, with coming off a game like this, I mean, you got to at least be kind of interested in like, that's pretty nice game right there. I will
Yeah.
say also DK Metcalf, we got to mention it. Like, yeah, he's probably not even top 20 right now. I just don't know
Oh
if you
no.
can put him in there. So, I mean, there's definitely a chance, depending on the size of your league and depending on your roster, like you could be playing him. Like he's probably 23, 24, 25 somewhere. But like, you probably can find better options. He's very talented. He could have a big
Yeah.
day, but all these guys in the top 25 are super talented.
Here's the thing
It's
is
just,
I don't think I'd put him in my top 25.
I mean, that would be tough for me not to have top 25, but
I
yeah.
mean, have you seen the last 5 weeks?
I was
52, 54, 91, 30, 55.
Yeah,
What
and
about that
before that he
screams
was
25?
really good, and Russell has not been really good. He actually was, Russell was pretty solid in this game. So, 4 for 43, not a terrible week. You can 8 points can it's not gonna obviously it's not great, but it's so it's not the absolute worst week. And like it's been a while since he was a top 10 receiver, but he does have that potential. And I will just say real quick with Rashad Penny, top 25. Like, okay, if Rashad Penny, if I can pick him up, which I got to check that after this, I'd probably play him over my like Tony Pollard, Jamal Williams. Like, I would feel better if like Swift doesn't go.
No, no,
So,
I'll give you that.
so
Yeah.
like there are scenarios where you may, depending on with COVID and all the injuries, that somebody you might be able to just pick up. You might not terrible.
Yeah. I'll give you that one. Next up, a team I think is going to dominate our Saturday episode, the Los Angeles Rams. Their locker room seems to have been decimated by COVID, at least right now. So Odell is the official one. Henderson was out last week with it. So if Henderson's back, he goes right back into, assuming he clears everything, he goes to me right back into that, probably just outside the top 10, um, maybe sneaking his way in depending. But to me, a guy I think is starting on pretty much every team that he's on. Stafford, is obviously if you've been rolling with him, you're going to continue to roll with him. He's been very, very good. Cup is decent at football. I'd probably play him. Um, and uh, Odell, like I said, is the only one officially right now in the COVID protocol, I believe. But it makes you concerned about the wide receiver room and that kind of stuff. So definitely keep an eye on it. We're going to talk about it on Saturday. But I think, assuming health on everybody, I understand Odell's been good. I appear to have been at least a little bit. They're way closer than I think a lot of people thought they were going to be with Van Jefferson and Odell. I like both. I like Jefferson a lot. I don't think I'm rocking either one of these guys in the playoffs unless I'm in a pretty bad spot.
Yeah, I will say, you mentioned Henderson. I got to mention Sony Michelle, another guy that I would probably put inside my top 20. So, like I said, like
If Henderson didn't play, yeah.
Yeah, assuming Henderson doesn't go, which is, I think there's a good chance he doesn't. We'll see. You had Melvin, you had Javonte Williams, Sony Michelle. Those three guys are probably like 15, 16, 17, 15, 16, 17, and then Barkley, Elliott. They're all like right there. It's kind of where I have them.
If we
And
keep
then
doing this, you're gonna have the Denver running backs at 3 pretty soon.
I
Just
haven't
keep
moved
bumping
them.
them.
No, I'm moving them
You know
up.
you did. Yeah, that's what I
No,
mean. You're gonna.
I like down. Like I'm saying, like they're probably like I was thinking like maybe they would be like either 15, 16, 17. I'm not moving there. I'm just saying
I know you said
Sony
16, 17
Michelle.
earlier. Now it's 15, 16. That's all I'm
Oh,
saying. If we
okay.
keep going,
Well, I was just trying to
I know.
think about it in my head here.
It's late in
Okay.
the season. We got to have some fun. There's not a ton to.
Um, but yeah, Van Jefferson, Odell, take your pick which one you think is going to have a good day. They might both have good days, but assuming they both go, they're top 30 guys, I think, and you're just kind of guessing on which one has a big day. Like I've said, I really love Van Jefferson because I was on that train super early. I love his talent. Um, you could check a video we have of him, like it was before anybody was talking about him. We were so early
Mhm.
on that. And Cooper Cup, yeah, I said the Hunter Renfro. It looks Cooper Cup had like the same day, 13 for 123 and a touchdown. So, he's very good.
Yeah. So I think you can agree though with Van Jefferson. Like I think most playoff teams aren't going to be in a
Yeah,
spot where that's going to be relevant. Packers. Um, this one seems like it's going to be pretty easy. Rogers, Jones, Adams. Start them.
yeah. The only thing with Aaron Jones is I mean, he had two touchdowns. Like he had 5 carries. Like AJ Dillon is
I know it. Yeah, you're
Like
right.
I'm saying, like Aaron Jones is probably like almost a must start. I still think he's a top 15 guy. I'm not putting the Broncos guys ahead of him. Don't worry, he's not moving up beyond him. But like he's a top 15
So
guy.
he's got to be top 14
But
then.
I am really nervous about this. I think AJ Dillon is not that far off of Aaron Jones, and he is below those Broncos guys, a little below them. But like it's not that far. When you only get 5 carries,
No, you're right.
it's hard. I mean, he had a receiving touchdown, he had a rushing touchdown, but which is why he had such a good day. But I don't know. I'm definitely nervous. I've talked about this the last few weeks. Like, I'm not sold on Aaron Jones had 45% of the snaps here. He was out snapped by AJ Dillon as well.
Yeah. I don't disagree with the mild hesitation, but like you said, I think you have to. I mean, look what he did with 45%. Like yes, it was end zone but that could very easily happen. Rodgers has one other guy to throw to. Like there's a good chance that he's get some work in the passing game. So I like Jones and I think you're right. I think Dylan is better than the 35 that he put up last week, the 35 fifth that he put up last week. So in deeper leagues, I think Dylan probably is getting some starts in the playoffs in deeper
I mean,
leagues.
Dillon averaged also. He didn't have any catches. I mean, he had 7 points. He averaged 5 yards a carry. It really is just touchdowns, lack of catches, PPR. Obviously, in standard league, he's better. If he's in that case. So, but most people play PPR, so
Yeah,
that's what
I
they
think
mostly care
this
about.
you're not. So I think that's. I can't remember. I'm trying to think of the uh, last time I didn't play at least some sort of like at least half PPR. Next up we got the Ravens. Lamar Jackson. It looks like they're have a positive outlook going into next week, coming off the injury. Something we'll talk a little more on Saturday. Something you want to keep your eye on. Um, if he does go down, it really like it always sucks to have an injury, but especially going into the fantasy playoffs and a guy with the talent that Lamar Jackson has. Um, After that and Andrews, um, Hollywood hasn't been great the last few weeks. Honestly, has been really good since week 9. Um, he's one of those guys, big upside, obviously significant more upside if Jackson's out there. So if you need if you need a huge upside, maybe he's the guy you go with. But I think he's going to be left off a lot of starting lineups.
Yeah, I think he's probably just outside the top 20. Devontae Freeman probably the same. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
chance, especially in the size of your league, but and yeah, Andrews is top 3 guy, top 4. He's right there with there's like four studs at tight end. If
Yeah.
thinking this through, 4 that are like way above everybody else,
Well, there's
and
one that's a way above everybody else. Yeah.
and Mark Andrews is one of those 4. So Lamar Jackson, don't love him here against the Packers, but obviously you don't have better options.
Yeah.
So you're probably rocking Lamar Jackson if he's out there.
Yeah. And like I said, I really hope he plays only because like you always hope everybody plays, but you'd hate to see somebody who had a really good like fantasy season going to the playoffs and lose just because of an injury. Like
Yeah.
you'd hate to see that. Uh Next up we got Saints Vikings. Uh Taysom another good week. We talked about this. He's just got that upside. He's got that rushing, which is just so prevalent in higher end a lot of high end fantasy quarterbacks. So if you picked him up, great choice. We talked about him a lot. Um, if you've got him, unless you picked him up just to keep him off somebody else's team and you happen to have one of the like major studs, you're rocking with him. Um, Kamara, stud, no question. And it stops after
Yeah.
that.
There's no value. Nick Vanette was the number 1 receiving option with 3 catches for 44 yards. So that tells you don't have a whole lot there. It's Kamara. Taysom actually didn't really have a good day for much of this, and then he kind of popped off at the end with the rushing. So that can happen, which is why he's
That
a
thing
top
is
10
like that's
quarterback.
why he's so
But
good.
this could have been a really bad game. Last week could have not been great as well. It would have been okay. He got that touchdown at the end. But it all counts the same. So a lot
Yep.
of late time. It didn't look great for much of it, but still came through as quarterback 4. So you're not going to complain there. And I think he's a top 10 quarterback this week as well, even going against the tough matchup here in the Minnesota Vikings.
So with the Vikings, my guess is as much as I like Cousins and he's been like flirting with the top 10. He's one of those guys that maybe if you've been rocking with him all season, you're not gonna find something better on the waiver wire. But if you're starting Cousins, there's not anything I can tell you there. Cook is a stud. Um, Thielen, if he plays, we'll talk about more on Saturday. It doesn't look like there's a real clear answer on that. But if he plays, you're rocking him. Jefferson, not if he plays. Jefferson, you're rocking, obviously. And Osborne has had a couple of really good weeks. So if you're in a spot at wide receiver, um, obviously if Thielen does play, I think Osborne goes out like that choice goes out the window. But if Thielen doesn't play and you're in a spot, um, you can make worse choices than KJ Osborne.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely don't love it. If you're in the
Yeah.
playoffs, there's almost, I think most scenarios you would not be playing KJ
The
Osborne.
only thing, unless you had like my thing is, I bet there's teams out there like I have KJ Osborne as like a backup, whatever. I'm not worried about it. But like if you were rocking Thielen and for some reason you had Osborne on your bench, like you could be in a spot where he's your best option.
Maybe it depends.
Maybe that I said you could be.
It's a big maybe. But yeah, you never know. But yeah, besides really Cook and Jefferson, obviously those
Yeah.
guys are top. Top 2 or 3 guys. Like those guys are complete studs. Besides those two, Cousins borderline top 10, top 12. You may be playing.
Yeah.
You're probably, and I guess I'll mention Tyler Conklin. There's a chance, like again, if you've been rocking tight ends, that he's the guy you've went with, and you may not be able to find anything better depending on the size of your league, and you're just like, I got to go with it. I think you could realistically be a really, really good team and have rock Tyler Conklin all year, or somebody like
It's
that.
possible,
So,
yeah.
he didn't have a great day, but again, it might be tough to find somebody better.
Yeah. Agreed. Uh, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think the first team we've come across that has five guys that, in my opinion, are must starts. And I think most people would agree that Brady, Fournette, Godwin, Evans, Gronk. You're starting them all, no question.
Yeah, I mean, Gronk is one of those top four tight ends. I think there's a big drop off between the top four, and then
Yeah,
of Kittle, Kelsey, Gronk, and Andrews wide receivers. God, it's crazy, but Brady's a top few wide receiver. Gronk is a top few tight end. Leonard Fournette is pretty, maybe not one of the top two or three, but he's definitely up there. And Edwins and Godwin are both top 10 guys. So this offense is so front loaded. It has
no,
all these guys are complete studs. And I should say, if you didn't know, what I was referencing earlier to the greatest tight end to ever play football, I was talking about, of course, Rob Gronkowski, who, in my opinion, is the greatest tight end to ever play the game.
yeah. It
And he
doesn't
is,
doesn't help at all that you've had the greatest quarterback in history your entire career. Doesn't make any difference whatsoever.
he's pretty
Let's see what he
good.
does with Jimmy Garoppolo. Show me what he does with Jimmy Garoppolo, and then we'll have a conversation.
We'll never have to know.
Yeah, that's true. He knows at this point. He's like, if Tom's done, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, he was. And then he's like, Tom's
yeah.
like, hey, I'm coming
He's
back. He's like,
also, let's be honest, he's going to be done before Tom's done because Tom's going to be 80 on the field somehow and still be like a top five fantasy
what's
quarterback because
crazy is like his velocity on his ball too. I think that's what's crazy. It's like his arm strength. He's never been known to have like elite arm strength, but it's always been pretty solid. It seems like it somehow has not diminished. It's not like Drew Brees or Peyton Manning.
no,
It's he legitimately
that was the big
is.
thing. Is like those guys. It just 1 year just didn't work. So I think everybody's still waiting for that, but it's just like I don't know. Like I said,
He's
I've stopped trying to figure out what's
he's
going
gonna
on with
be
him.
just throwing lasers, and when he's like, yeah, like 50. So we'll see.
And the last team going into week 15,
And with a
sh-
bang.
yeah, Chicago Bears. In my opinion, there's only one guy to even remotely talk about, and in my opinion, you also don't want to start him if you can avoid it. Anything is Montgomery.
I mean, he's been really good. I don't know about not want to start him. I mean, he's been pretty
You
good this
don't.
year.
You would not be happy if you're in the playoffs and Montgomery's your running back.
I don't know. I
Don't
mean,
lie.
I would gladly take Montgomery right now if
Well, yeah,
I
because you're in a
over
bad spot.
if
But
Swift doesn't play. So it just depends on your
yeah,
lineup. But yeah, I mean, I still Montgomery. Obviously, I'm more concerned here. I think Montgomery is a top 15 guy, but I think he's usually a top 10 guy or close to it. But this matchup is really tough. Tampa Bay is good against the run. Um, I feel like this is not going to be a great day here, but I really feel like you're probably not going to be able to get away from him. So,
no.
besides
I will say
Montgomery,
this: I'd rather have both Denver running backs than him,
and I think you
without
could make the
question.
case there. I think I disagree just because I can't put the Denver Broncos. I can't just keep moving them up, but I think they're this close. Like I do think they're right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Besides that, though, what are we even talking about? There's nothing else of relevance here. This
It's so bad.
it's their deepest of leagues. You could have a 32 team league with
All right, calm down.
you play 8 wide receivers and 7 running backs, and I don't know if you're playing any of these guys.
You might. You know what? I thought you were going crazy there. Like you might get to one wide receiver in
Yeah,
that setup.
Darnell Mooney you would
Uh,
be playing for
yeah,
sure,
you
but
might get to one wide receiver. But I will say, and then we'll talk about this to the offseason. I'm really excited if there's a coaching change, which I think there will be. I'm really excited to see what Fields can do with somebody who actually cares about what he's good at.
yeah, and it's one of those things that like will the next coach they have to hit on the next coach? Is it going to be, if they keep changing coaches, you know,
Yeah, but I
um
think they know what they have at quarterback now, and I think they're going to get a coach that will scheme for
we'll
Fields.
see. It's always like you're hopeful, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
So awesome. Well, that takes us through going into week 15. Good luck in the playoffs, everybody. I say that just assuming because every league I'm in, this is the playoffs. I'm assuming most leagues are like that. Some people probably already started with the 2 week playoffs. Good luck. We will be back on Saturday. Last week there was no injury episode. That's on me. I was out of town. I'll take 100% blame for that. If I'm going to blame Butler when he deletes an episode, I'm going to take the blame when we don't have one, and it's my fault. So thanks for making it this far. Hit that like button. You've obviously liked it at least a little bit. You're I don't know how long in, but it's over an hour. So thank you very much. Subscribe if you haven't. This week, I think more important than a lot of weeks. Touch base with us on Saturday for the injury episode because I think there's going to be some stuff going on. So we will be back, and thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, hit the like. I don't know what videos will be coming out after the season, so make sure hit the subscribe button. If you're like, you know
Mm.
what, that's a good looking beard. Thank you. I do appreciate. They're talking about mine, not yours. Uh,
That seems like a wild assumption.
uh, so thank you for that. And we'll see. I don't know. Like honestly, I'm just kind of thinking stuff through. So we'll see. Hit that subscribe button and come back, and we'll have hopefully some good content for you. And good luck, like David said. Good luck this week, and see you next week when you're in your championship game, probably. So if next week is your championship week, so good luck. Have a good one. See ya.
See ya.